Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Practitioner's View of IP for Sustainable Business workshop. We have with us two distinguished guests, Mr. Akhilesh Srivastav and Mr. Sanjay Kimbone. So I'll just briefly introduce them and then Mr. Akhilesh will start the session. So about Mr. Akhilesh, he has 36 years of industry and teaching experience comprises of ICT standards, IPR policy, software IP protection, patent management, invention mining, technology landscape and portfolio strategy, artificial intelligence based speech, script and natural language technologies, engineering education and research, team building and student counseling. He is providing leadership by driving IPR and standards for strategic innovation under Corporate Research and Innovation Organization of TCS. He is present chairman of the study group of service and solution at Telecommunications Standard Development Society of India, the Indian Standard Developing Organization focusing on ICT standards for 5G and IoT technologies. His research interests are artificial intelligence enabled Bhagavad Gita for solving human challenges. Welcome, Mr. Akhilesh.
Thank you.
So we have our second guest, Mr. Sanjay Kimbone. He is Senior Scientist, Embedded System and Robotics Research, TCS Research and Innovation, Thane. He received his BE degree in electronics from Amravati University with distinction. He is working as a senior scientist in TCS Research and Innovation. He has experience of 30 years in diverse field of CTI video conference solutions and mobile application for masses. He has published 30 papers and has 36 granted patents. His current interest focus is on engineering innovation devices for screening cardiovascular diseases in the scalable and frugal way. He is mentoring many startups in social sector working in healthcare domain. He is instrumental in developing M-Krishi platform for farmers. M-Krishi has reached about 1 million farmers as well as has received many prestigious awards. Welcome, Mr. Sanjay, to this workshop. So, Mr. Akhilesh, stage is all yours, sir. You can start the session.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ravni. And let me share the presentation, then start talking. So, is everyone able to see the presentation? Okay, I can't. Yes, I presume yes. And so today's session on intellectual property for sustainable business. Let me welcome all of you. As Ms. Ravni said, first I will give a presentation for about 30 minutes, followed by a couple of case study presentation by my colleague, Mr. Sanjay Kimbone, followed by about 30 minutes of very good discussion, I expect. That said, please feel free to raise your questions even during the presentation, because I have a view to the presentation slide. I may have to switch to see your questions. So I may miss seeing it immediately as soon as you give, but I'll definitely switch to that and look at it. So I'll go ahead. But this presentation, this particular session on IP for sustainable business, as the name reveals, has to talk something more important, more the aspect of IP where we need to focus from a point of view to leverage it in the business. So it is expected, rather assumed, that the participants have the basic knowledge of IP. However, your questions on some specific doubts can be entertained during the Q&A sessions. But please stay focused on the point which we are trying to make, because that is the need for all the Indian entrepreneurs, startups, business organizations to focus on if they want good returns from their IP, without which definitely the product and solution-led business is not going to be sustainable. So where should be the focus? We all hear a lot about the intellectual property, so many stories, and still the leveraging of intellectual property in the business seems to be a secret, seems to be something confidential. It looks like a secret which needs to be peeled off and revealed. So how to do that? What should be the best way to get this revelation to us about the intellectual property? And the approach I want to suggest, being a Bhagavad Gita researcher and student, to take the approach which can reveal the highest confidential knowledge, the highest secret, the topmost secret. And that knowledge is actually revealed in Bhagavad Gita. And the approach is also clear that how the knowledge gets revealed. So let us have a 2-minute view on what is the secret revealed in Bhagavad Gita. It is actually revealed in 3 steps: the confidential, more confidential, and most confidential. And how it is revealed, and then we will apply the same process for understanding the secret of intellectual property. So the first level of confidential knowledge, as revealed in Bhagavad Gita, says God is present everywhere. A very simple statement. God is omnipresent. And if one can meditate on this statement, contemplate on this statement, realize it, then one would stop doing the sins. So he becomes a sinless person, free from the sins. Such a simple thing. Second level of confidential knowledge, which is called more confidential knowledge. So just some of you may not be satisfied by my just saying, so I'll give you the where it is said in Bhagavad Gita. The first level of confidential knowledge Lord reveals in the chapter 7, which is where Lord reveals in so many shlokas that how he is present everywhere, right from starting mattah partaram na anyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva rasohamapsu kaunteya prabhasmi shashi suryayo pranavah sarva vedeshu shabdakhe paurusham vishu पुण्यो गंधः पृथिव्यां च तेजश्चास्मि विभावसो जीवनं सर्वभूतेषु तपश्चास्मि तपस्विषु दैवी हि येषां गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायमेतां तरन्ति ते. So this whole chapter, Lord keeps revealing, precisely saying that I'm everywhere. And if we can meditate on this, we become sinless. That's the process. And the second revelation, I'll just say one shloka from 13th chapter, of course, again at several places in different contexts, says that God is in everyone's heart. He is omnipresent. His second says he is in the form of super soul as Paramatma in the heart of all the living entities. And this says Upadrashta Numanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwarah Paramatmeti cha upyukto dehe asmin purushah para. Means if you can understand that the Lord is within you, in your heart, then this gives you tremendous energy and drive for achieving anything what you are to achieve. So this realization can make you successful in life, everywhere, forever. So you become a successful person. And the topmost confidential knowledge, the most secret knowledge, says understanding Krishna, the Lord, as the supreme controller for everything what exists. And that, of course, I can just say the shloka, but I'll not go to the philosophy over here. The Manmana Bhava Madbhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru Mame Vishyasi Satyam Te Pratijane Priyo Asime. This is in the last 18th chapter. And this shloka is the only one shloka which, being so important, the most confidential knowledge, Lord has spoken, recited twice. He also spoke this with a slightly small variant in the 9th chapter, saying, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vishyasi yuktvaevam atmanam matparayana. So this is what, if realized, can make you a perfect person. So what is the process? That's important. We are trying to get to the process is that you study, you listen, but that's not sufficient. You contemplate and realize. So it is a subject matter of contemplation and realization that can get you revelation of this confidential knowledge. So if we do the same thing in intellectual property, if we decide where to, of course, about IPR, you all have been listening, you have been studying, but something is missing. That's why when it comes to leveraging the IP in our business, suddenly the outcome is very small. I'm not saying it is true for everyone, but that is true for many of the organizations. And that's why we are here to discuss that. So we need to find out which aspect we need to contemplate, which aspect we need to realize of the intellectual property, which is, of course, much smaller secret as compared to the secret as revealed in Bhagavad Gita. So I'm sure this process will give us full success in understanding IP. So what we say that you should contemplate on the IP landscape means you should know in your solutions, products, in your area and offerings which you want to take to the market, what is the landscape of the technology and the patents, who are the key players behind them. That's very important so that you understand the actual gap, and knowing that gap, you know where to make the investment and how to get the returns. And for being able to get that returns part, you need to realize the IP that works for the society. Because we can create a lot of IP, we can get wonderful patent grants from the patent offices, but patent offices can only give you that much. They can give you the grant. They cannot help you to go to the market. That is not the platform to be leveraged for going to the market. They can only help you to get the patent grants, or any other form of IP can be created in the same way with respective patent offices or copyright trademark offices. So what is to be done? That's what we want to stay focused on this session. And for that, I will very briefly touch upon, because I said that as everyone is aware, but still I'll touch upon some important aspects. What is intellectual property? Because if it is a secret, let us see where is the catch. Means we all hear the stories of intellectual property, so many suits being filed, this thing happened, that fight happened, but do we know what is intellectual property and where it lies in my work environment? Do I exactly know that? So where the intellectual property comes from, when you invest money in your organization in form of the efforts and time of the people, and you want to invest, make this investment to get the creativity out of them. So what are the different forms of the creative outcome? We will understand. But first thing is a new knowledge. Means there is some prior art, some existing knowledge. On top of it, some creativity leads to new knowledge creation. And basically, this new knowledge is generated during the process of finding a solution to a given problem, or when you try to convert your idea into an patentable invention or even non-patentable invention. From idea to invention or problem to solution journey, we tend to generate new knowledge. Now, this new knowledge is very important because this is the potential candidate which gives several intellectual assets, depending upon what was the form of this knowledge. And those intellectual assets, if appropriately protected, using the available mechanisms for protection, you get the intellectual property which you want to protect in some form, internally or externally. And once you have the intellectual property and you have done the full validation avoiding any business risk, you get the intellectual property rights which are enforceable and can be leveraged. So you are now topped up to that point that you have invested money, that is, this was your investment, and you got the IPR. By investing money, you got the IPR, but you didn't get money. Actually, you should get money, invest small money, get more money. That was the goal, but you got IPR. So now you got to turn IPR into money. So what is little bit less understand a little more on the various types of intellectual property, because then it will help us understand how to convert them into money. So as you all know, you have two types of confidential information in your organizations. And the best way will be to, when it is confidential information, you go back 100 years back and see how the businesses were run. Because that time there are no corporates like TCS or IBM or Accenture and so on. So that time there are family-run businesses. Those people used to provide services to the people, to the rest of the society, and some solutions or products. But all of them were run by mostly like a family business. So the key differentiator was that the families maintained the knowledge as a trade secret, confidential knowledge, generations to generations. And they have been continuing the business in that mode without disclosing it to others. So that was wonderful because there were no job switches. Nobody wants to flick one job from one company to another company. So that worked very well. And there were no other requirements that why this should be disclosed. So undisclosed method worked very well for a very long time. But sometimes when these corporates have grown, the business models have changed, and everything cannot be kept confidential. Because today, like in IT world, people will change jobs. So you cannot have everything confidential. Plus, the products can be reverse engineered. The moment you launch, everybody knows what is the functionality that cannot be confidential. Everybody can make out more or less how this functionality is achieved, so that cannot be confidential. So that means the moment you provide a service or launch a product into the market, you are forced to reveal something about it, which was earlier meant to be confidential, but now you cannot. So the question comes, how do you protect something which is not confidential? That we will also see, and we'll see something which can be confidential, how to protect that. So which is confidential is undisclosed information, which is not confidential is disclosed information. So that is, any undisclosed information brought the concept of trade secrets or know-how which sits in the minds of the people who work, and trade secrets may or may not, may be in different forms. They can be in the files, they can be in the soft copies or whatever, or can be with the people also. But this context, this is actually applicable even to the modern business organizations. I said something has to be disclosed, but that doesn't mean everything has to be disclosed. Even today, you can very safely say 80% of the knowledge remains confidential to the company, because all the business strategy, all the customer information, the how you reach out to the market, and a very good part of the products and solutions and platforms as well is confidential, which we don't want to reveal outside the company, accepting what are the user manuals and some such information only what goes outside along with the product to the market. So that means there is a trade secret, a very good amount of trade secret available with all the companies even today. So the trade secret has to be kept confidential. It is a trade secret only if it is valuable to the business. If it has no value, then of course you don't want to spend efforts in protecting it. It has to be protected internally. You can have the physical protections or electronic protections or whatever means, but you cannot go to a office outside and saying that I'm disclosing and give me the protection, because then it's leaked. So that's why it is called undisclosed. Coming to the second form, that is disclosed information, and what happens to the knowledge there which you want to protect. So this is very important. One, the disclosed information, as the modern businesses, I said, need disclosure of the confidential information. And we need to disclose to the government bodies, which can give us in turn the protection. We say that, look, this is what we created. We are disclosing to you. We are paying you the fees. Please give us the exclusive rights on this, prevent others from using, and let everybody be known that this is what is created by us. So that is the process. So what is such disclosed information? Can be of various types. Something which is an idea, an idea which is new, a novel idea, which has the inventiveness, means there is something which gives the incremental knowledge on top of whatever was earlier existing knowledge, and which has the industrial utility, means there is some industry problem at least which can be solved using this idea. So that is NIU, novelty, inventiveness, and utility. If there is such an idea, then this becomes a potential candidate to be protected as patent. So that is one form of the disclosed information. Another form could be the original expression. For example, you may create a painting, you may make some nice art, you may create some kind of dramatics, some drama or act, play, or so there is literary, dramatics, artistic, or musical. You may do some music composition or even the lyrics, or even you can enact any of this. You can enact a play, like even the performance we have right now. We are having this communication online over the AirMeet tool to have this discussion. Even this is an original expression, because it cannot repeat in the same way. And such any original expression is copyrightable subject matter. So if there is an originality of the expression, you should think in terms of protection by way of copywriting. If there is an idea which is novel, inventive, and having some industrial utility, think the protection by way of patenting it. And if you want to distinguish your products, your solutions in the market from the other goods, other products, similar products, then you use the trademarks. So there are a lot of details to it. I'm purposely not going there. It could be trademark, service mark, and blah blah. So but basically these are the marks to distinguish. They could be the slogans, they could be some punchlines, they could be some symbols, designs, and so on. Not designs exactly, I should say some kind of art, or even some kind of jumbled in any word which may not be even a dictionary word. Actually, it's preferred if it is not a dictionary word. So all those things which help distinguishing your product from the rest. So that is a trademark. It is used for branding basically. Another branding tool is of course, that is not only branding, the industrial design, because that gives you a visual and other aspects. Other aspects means something which is beneficial for the user as well as the manufacturer. Like user finds it convenient to use, and manufacturer finds it convenient because he gets some unique advantage. So such things are the industrial designs. They can be protected. There is a provision and law to protect industrial designs. Same way there is a provision and law to protect trademarks, copyrights, patents. There is a term for each one of them. There is a provision whether they are to be protected in all geographies or in only one geography, and all those things which you know generally. So these are different disclosed intellectual property, because they are first disclosed and protected, and you pay a fees for that. Whereas the earlier one which I said, the trademarks, you protect yourself within the organization, and so you make your own provision and expenditure for that. So now coming to sustainable business, the point which we want to arrive at. This was only the introductory part, whatever I said. Now we are coming to the point. So at this point, let me go to the chat box and see if there are any questions. Will recording of the session be made available? Okay, I don't see any question to me. Okay. In the questions, there are no questions. If somebody wants to quickly ask any question, otherwise I'll continue. Okay, thank you. So we go ahead. I said, now let's focus on how your business becomes sustainable. So as a very basic thing, business is sustainable. If so, sustainability comes from prosperity. If you are prosperous, you are sustainable. And prosperous means you should make good money. So you should invest. There should be good return on investment. And IPR, intellectual property rights, is one known technique to give you higher returns. Means if you are an IP-led company, means you have made investment into research and innovations, created some IP, then you are expected to have an edge over your offerings in the market. But is that a theory or that's a reality? That's the question we want to discuss here. So intellectual property rights give higher returns is what everyone believes, but we should verify that. Sustainable business means you invest small money and you get big money. Then you are sustainable. And for that, you're trying to leverage IPR. You're using IPR as one of the means to make this happen, to get big money from the small investment. So that is the purpose. So, but so far you have seen that if you go for the research and innovations and patenting journey and copywriting, trademarking, all of that, you will find from your money investment, you get IPR, you get patents, you get copyrights, you get trademarks, but you don't get money. So where is the money coming from? That means you have to turn your IPR into money now. And you need to know how to do that. Unless you are able to, you cannot be very happy having wonderful patents. They are drain on your expenditure because you got to maintain them, pay money for maintenance year on year. Even if, so creating is one expense, maintaining is another expense. So unless you get some good returns, it's an expenditure only. So we need to understand the IP monetization, but how to get money from the IPR. So that means now you're thinking in terms of creating some IP-led market offerings. IP-led market offerings means you are trying to bundle your IP which you create into your offerings, which may be in the form of the products or solutions or services. So and there, because you're bundling your IP, you want to get some extra advantage of getting more returns. So how do we do? There are the standard theories of that. So I'll go through the list of theories, then we'll see whether that is really happening or not. We say the strong IP portfolio reduces the business risk. That means if you create lots of good patents behind your product, it reduces the business risk. Thus minimizes the damage because you are at the lesser risk of being sued by somebody. Question is whether this is true or not, because I feel this plain statement as it is doubted. Own intellectual property can reduce the royalty outflow. That is again a belief that if you own the IP, you don't have to license everything. Very good thought. IP-led product solutions and services may help in providing better and sustainable services. Again, good questions. Services on the inside details of your product in it to me as a which can you helps in it, but whether how will it happen? You each other. So that's a very nice deal, but again, there is no clarity about what money one has made, each one of them. So look at all this. There's a question. How many times you see that really this happens with the IP which you create in-house? That many of us know the journey of IP creation as small, medium or big organizations in India. I'm not saying essentially in India, actually, that whatever I say is true everywhere, but it's the need of the hour for us, so I'm pointing out. So that, but we create wonderful patents, thousands of them, but how many of you honestly see going into the products, getting bundled, going to the market, and market really giving you the benefit out of that? Many times we bundle, but we are not able to even tell people that there is our patent. Is that right? We can't even say that I have 5 patents here, and if we say also, it doesn't matter. Customers say, okay, that's good. Thank you very much. So what's the advantage? So why this is so? Why this is not helping me to monetize really in the real sense? Why I cannot see a tangible monetization out of this? That is because, back to the point which we approached, that we are looking at the aspect which of creating the IP, and we feel happy after that. We don't go beyond, because as I said, the patent offices have granted it and it's yours, but then you got to leverage it with a different journey. So let us understand that. Because IPR gives the right only to build the products, solutions. You can build it definitely because you have created something, but it does not open the path for go to the market, because when you want to go to the market, there is a different journey. Go-to-the-market journey for IP-led offerings is enabled by harmonizing your IP with the entire ecosystem. How do you do that? So we need to know what is the ecosystem, which consists of other components, systems, and their owners. Whatever, like you go and deploy something in a smart city application, there will be a whole lot of communication infrastructure and many other things along with your lighting system. So you need to harmonize with all other people. They should be comfortable taking your solution, integrating with their systems and their products, and making sure that this seamlessly works, interoperable, and this follows the regulatory requirements. This is interoperable, and it has and all the standards requirements, regulatory requirements, funding organization. Everybody is satisfied and harmonized with that. So you need to really work with all of them. How to address all that? Now comes the key question. I said that patent offices you go to create the patents. Then, and you have understood now the need, that what is required for monetizing. So the important question is that what is required to where you should go for monetizing your IP. There are few options open to you. Like people talk of, say, it depends on what is your product and what is your solution accordingly. Of course, one very standard path is go to the standard bodies, because standard bodies is a platform where everybody comes who is interested in IP, who has created IP, or who wants to license in others' IP, or who wants to license out their IP, who wants to leverage their own IP. All those people are there. It is an IP marketplace. So if you go to the standards bodies and you propose what you want to leverage in the market, that is, propose your IP, your technology, socialize it with everyone, and make sure that everyone is comfortable using it. It's not a difficult journey. The myth is that people say there's lots of politics. No. If you have a good technology, these bodies do a fair play. Only the bad part in these bodies is the advantage to early movers. If you have a foresight and you're an early mover, you go and put your stakes into the kitty, then definitely you're at advantage to somebody who comes afterwards, because your thing gets accepted. Now somebody comes with an alternative solution, struggles, though he has a good solution, good patents behind it, but this solution was not accepted by the members of the body. So the whole community is not accepting that. So that means if despite of having your patents, if you build a solution using that, it's not acceptable to others. So that gives you the disadvantage. So that's basically what I wanted to summarize here. The strategy for IP monetization. So this is important. You all know the hype curve. In the hype curve, you start with the start of the technology, when some technology is just introduced. Then this technology starts getting matured. It gets matured, then it starts getting into the next phase. Maybe this has a subsequent secondary peaks. So that should be your strategy, that you look at where is the technology and solution which you are talking about. Is it something like Sony Walkman, which when introduced in the market had its like the developers, creators of this product had the privilege of creating their own market, completely niche market, niche technology. So then there's not competition, and there are no worry about the standards, which standards to follow. They can set up their own standards, but that doesn't mean that would be sustainable. If you want to set up your own standards, you should still have the communities made, have the acceptability of the society, community at large, so that over a period of time that will be heading towards a standard. But yes, the job is much less as compared to the case where there is a mature technology. So first is when you have early niche technology. So study the regulatory provisions in the geography where you want to go, create your own market, build the communities, set up standards over a period of time. If you want to have a really long lasting product or solution in the market, you should do all of that. And second is a matured, like supposing you are somewhere on this part of the curve. Are you able to, okay, maybe I can't get your response. So, so that is where you have more homework, because you need to study the regulatory provisions, study the patent landscape, because there will be existing patents already around your product, identify the standards and technology gap to strategize the IP creation, identify the ecosystem players, and you decide who will be your technology partner, could be the application partner, who could be the go-to-market partner, and so on, and strategize accordingly. So that is actually the ecosystem harmonization which I am talking. And coming to the, maybe you are somewhere towards the first day when the technology started, like as if not sure whether it will continue or not, or there is a chance it might get revived. So then you should again think in terms of next generation of the product or solution, and see if you want to make a strategic investment, if you are very confident to revive that and come up with a new generation and be an early mover this time. Or the secondary peaks, then of course, like if your secondary peaks have already come, you are somewhat similar to the first peak. Sometimes the secondary peaks may become the higher than the first one, like in the AI, there are some examples. So still, what are the monetization challenges? Another 2-3 minutes. Sorry, I think I have extended my time, but let me see. Another 2 minutes. So monetization challenges are very important to know as an entrepreneur, because you are putting your money into something. So you need to, your feet should be on the ground to know exactly what returns you are going to get. So like if it is a new technology, so you should know what is the exact patent landscape where you are putting the money. Who are the key players and what they own, where is the gap and which gap you want to address in your business. But that is difficult, because now comes the challenge. You all are familiar with the patent landscape study based on the portfolio study, which is not sufficient. Means you will go to a Google patent or to some other patent tool, some wonderful tools, they can give you the entire landscape. But that is not adequate, please understand. The game doesn't end there. That is only the beginning. You need to know what are the standard essential patents. By the way, there is no label on a patent written as this is SCP. That is another challenge. You can't easily find out which patent is SCP, which patent is not SCP by going to an ordinary patent repository. You will have to go to a very specific patent repository for your product or solution, where this IP would have been disclosed to some standards body, and either the same body or some custodian of that body which deals with the IP is dealing with this kind of IP transactions, and you have to find which is that body. And then there you should see what are the patents which have the unique technology for which there are no alternatives and that is accepted as the standard essential patent. So you should know in your solution how many such patents will creep in, which you cannot avoid, because there is no alternative way of doing it. So that means that license out, that royalty outflow is a must. Then you got to find which are the patents which are not essential, but they are already accepted by the standards bodies disclosed there. So you again have a challenge there also. If you want to do an alternative way which changes the specification of the accepted challenges in a particular geography, you have to go through a lot of process again. So you need to, but that is doable. But for SCPs, you cannot do anything unless you want to challenge the SCP. And again, fight it out in the standards body. So there are, like that, there are a lot of, and why these SCPs are not known, because by nature, where the SCPs are not known, are not tagged in the patent offices. Standard essential patent label is given only in the standards body driven IP branch of them, where the standards developing organization and corresponding IP unit. So that means there is no obligation for the members to Non-members who are not members of the standard body, they anyway have no obligation to go and declare something there. It's like if you are not a member of 3GPP, you don't need to go there and declare your patent and say this is an essential patent or non-essential, whatever. So there is no provision, no regulatory provision at a country or a cross-country level which forces people, because well, as a good citizen, it's your responsibility. As a good citizen, the moment you have a unique technology, please, you should feel responsible that you should not leverage it without disclosing it to a appropriate standards body saying that this is my unique patent. And everybody should know, and I'm making it available on the FRAND terms. But then that won't happen because I don't have any compulsion. I'm not obliged to do that. So there is some regulatory gap there, number one, at a country level also, and at a world level also, global plane as well. So second is, of course, those who are members, they are also not forced, because the standard setting organizations, they are more worried about getting the members. They are not taking it so strongly on their members that you must disclose if you have an IP. So because they will lose the members in that case. So because if you see the IEEE has kind of, in one survey, the IEEE standards, the disclosure, they officially, as per policy, they allow the negative declarations. Negative declarations means I'm declaring my patent, but at the same time, I'm saying that I will not make it available for a friend. So that means a negative declaration, which is not the spirit of standard essential patent. So such declaration actually should not be allowed as a policy. So the standards bodies, there's a lot of inconsistency all over the globe. And because of that, in a new technology, you will find it very difficult to really get a view of the patent landscape to make your strategic investment in a particular technology if you want to do even with your best efforts. So you have to take some amount of risk. Second, the patents not declared, that is, I think said all of that, whatever I was to say, because I thought I'm running short of time. So you find some challenges in getting the technology and market partners because of that. That is fine. So not very important. But so let me have a quick look at if by now there are some good questions which we need to discuss. Otherwise, I want to hand over to the second speaker and come back for the question answering session. What is the difference between industrial design and patent? Okay, I'll come to that. Algorithm is associated. Okay, I think they are good questions. Let me address them. So for proposed algorithm, we can go for patent or copyright IP. Okay, I think this is coming from much above. So even a small idea can be patented. Answer is no, because this is a question from Pallavi. So Ms. Pallavi, the idea is not patentable as such unless you can reduce it to practice. So it should be possible to have a system which can reduce your idea into the practice, reduction to practice. That means your enablement should be possible by way of engineering, because that gives incremental growth of technology. And unless there is incremental growth of technology, there is no patent. That is the basic principle of patenting. Then Ms. Srishti, dear folk, okay, you may ask your questions. Thank you. Then Mr. Nixon Patel, sir, you asked why is despite of IP having exceptional potential ROI, big IT companies in India never focused on IP? Okay, that's a difficult question. I think I have to surrender. So probably that's a very, I mean, I'm also very much puzzled by this question, I should say, because we are making investment, we are creating IP, but we are not leveraging it. So it's the high time to look into why we should be doing that. We can't be doing the social service of creating the IP. It's a very pertinent question, sir. Thank you very much for bringing this to everyone's notice. I can only say that it is like something, if somebody did not have an IP, I can understand. But if somebody has an IP but still doesn't want to use, it is the height. So that means I'm ready to pay money and still not do anything of it. So Miss Anita, for proposed algorithm, we can go for patent or copyright. Okay. So proposed means some algorithm you have. So actually, if you have an algorithm, you can patent. Nobody says the algorithms are not patentable. Algorithms are the way of changing the behavior of your machine. Because see, what your machine may look the same hardware, the same machine, that is a physical appearance of the machine. But machine is not only the hardware, machine is hardware plus software. And if software is the algorithm which changes the behavior of your machine, enables your machine to perform some task which in the history no one could do, even an incremental small bit of it, then you can definitely claim a patent on that, because that shows the incremental growth of technology. That shows the technology is able to do something which it was not able to do in the past. And that capability, it is something like supposing I did my engineering, I graduated from a college. Before graduation, I was somebody as a hardware. After graduation, I have a lot of additional knowledge. So I'm a totally different person, a new avatar now in the professional world. So one cannot say, no, no, that was all software, so that is not acceptable. So the machine is software plus hardware, so algorithm is very much patentable. Then all those things the patenting officers have gone through, and very, very pertinent questions what you have asked, but now they are all resolved also. Mr. Nixon Patel, IP awareness and monetization is evolving towards maturity. Big IT companies has filed several thousands of patents in the last few years, but IP-led offering is yet to happen at a scale in India. Yes, I can, sir, say one observation in that respect, because it is in a way the same question which was asked earlier. That see, we are probably very happy in Indian companies. I'm saying providing the services. I don't think we have, in the true sense, in the IT world, I'm talking of the IT industry. In the true sense, we have seen the uh, products and solutions, IP-led products and solutions getting into the market. Because if that game is there, the IP and standards journey is inevitable. Otherwise, we will become like total flop, because we will not break even with our business. So that's why, so I can say probably the industry is yet to get into the products and solution game. They are only into the apps or customer solutions or services. So unless we get into the proprietary products and solutions, probably this pinch will not be felt. But this is also true, unless you get there, you cannot expect very high returns at the same time. So Ms. Anita said, from Indian perspective, algorithm and associated system has a greater chance of getting a patent. Yes, I think we have talked that. What is the difference between industrial design and patent? That is Ms. Shrishti. So industrial design is basically, the design means kind of 2 and 3 dimensional visual aspects. That is one. And secondly, it is something which should be increasing the convenience of the users and the manufacturers both. So it is like, if I have this mobile phone, then it should give me a convenience that I can just go and click here. And the moment I click, this screen should come. So that is a design, that this click button should be here. So this all is a design, which are the visual aspects. But design can have even on a user screen, like the usability and the user screen is also a subject matter of designing. In US they allow it, but in India it's still not allowed. So there are various country-wise variations, but the design is that. And the patent, now the patent is something which is gives incremental growth of technology. So that when you want to patent, there should be an idea, and which should have the novelty, inventiveness. Inventiveness means incremental growth of technology and industrial applicability. So all three will apply in a way, a very good question, to the industrial design also. But industrial design, the objective is the visual convenience of using. It's more of the convenience for the user and manufacturer for achieving that article or goods. I hope that is clear. But the patents will be viewed from the novelty, inventiveness, and usability point of from the utility point of view. The evaluation is different for the patents. So it will be like searched against, of course, the prior art will be looked against in both the cases. So then there is something similar, but the prior art will be different there. The prior art will be different here. So the subject is different. And Miss Pallavi says, there is, okay, thanks. Sorry, Miss. Thank you. Okay, that's the answer I gave. Dr. Sriram, could you please put up the hype curve slide again? Okay, sure. And I'll come back to that. Nixon Patel, Adjunct Professor, QLabs. What are the top 5 challenges of intellectual property rights in India? Okay. Is that a question to me, or I'm a little confused? Srishti, this is a question to me, right? So if it is to me, let me just list out.
Yes, Akhilesh, this question
First thing is, it is the high time that all the entrepreneurs start realizing that they have to get into the IP-led solutions and products. We cannot live with the solutions being implemented for the customers alone. So if you want to create your own solutions, which you want to license to n number of customers, then the game is different. So that is, and for doing that, you need to create IP. And you need to create very strategic and focused IP as well. Because if you just create some IP, it will not do the job because it will not go to the market. So that is the major challenge. And I don't want to list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then of course there is a thing is because we have not been early movers, we should think in terms of the partnership mode quickly in the particular domain where you want to build the solution, because and very carefully see your royalty outflow and analyze your, so that's why we will have to do more homework, because we will have to find more partners. We'll have to very carefully decide how much will be my royalty outflow to make sure my product is sustained in the market, and so on. We should not be just creating something for giving it to somebody. It should, if you want to really take it long term in the market, all that has to be looked at. If there are, I think I'll just take one more question from Dr. Sriram. In the monetization challenge slide, what about the jurisdiction of the country to which the patent applies? There is a difference between the patenting and commercialization. Yes, so you got to file and get the patent granted in the country where you want to commercialize. That's simple. If you have not filed and got the patent granted in a particular country, then you cannot enforce it there. Hope that answers my question. Okay. Or there's something in questions box. Yeah, okay. How to overcome. Okay. Actually, I should not say India has the challenges, because probably that's not my way of perceiving. So I would say, what are the opportunities for, and if you ask me top 5 opportunities, I'll say, what are the top 5 opportunities for India? Because this is really the best and most opportune time for India, because you have all the partnership opportunities open in whichever space, in whichever vertical of the industry you go. You have so all IP creation opportunities are open. Only thing is you got to do the strategy right and play it right. So I think I'll pause here. We will have again some questions at the end. In the meantime, I can see your questions carefully if they are. And I would hand over to my colleague, Mr. Sanjay Kimbawne. And Sanjay, I'm extremely sorry for overstepping the time. So please take it, all yours.
It's okay, Akhilesh, no problem. Thank you very much. So can you pass on the screen to me?
I'll stop sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, can you see my screen? Akhilesh?
Yes, Sanjay, we
Okay.
can see you.
So yeah, thank you Akhilesh for a very nice and detailed presentation. So today I thought I'll give you 4 case studies.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Sorry. Okay, sorry. That's my.
Yeah, you're on.
Yeah, okay. So is it clear now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll share 4 case studies with you, 2 old case studies and 2 new case studies, right? And the structure of presentation would be basically, the problem statement, how we proceeded to solve that problem, what is the aspect of patent in that, and what is the impact that is created. And at the end, I will summarize with the key takeaways. Okay? Now, the first patent, no. So let me take back to 2007. Okay, so 2007. So I was doing mainstream projects, and basically at that time, telecom scenario was evolving. So a lot of mobile technologies were coming in, and the way of communication with the customer primarily was IVR. Okay, so I was talking to one of my customer, and he said that Sanjay, the customer care interaction cost is a huge, right? Per IVR call cost around 7 to 8 rupees. So can you reduce the customer interaction cost? So that was the problem statement given. And earlier I developed various solutions on call center technologies and IVR technologies, and mobile technologies were evolving. So I thought, why can't I integrate these two technologies and come up with something which is new? Okay, so that's where I filed my first patent on packet interactive multimedia response in 2007. Essentially, this is a patent wherein if you see IVR, you have the hardware card, there are telephone lines, and essentially what IVR does is that whenever somebody dials into that IVR, the IVR answers, "Welcome to ICICI Bank. Press 1 for this, 2 for this, 3 for this," right? And whenever the person presses 1 or 2 or 3, it goes back to the database, fetches the values, converts it into the voice form, and presents it to the user. Okay. So essentially, if you see the any illiterate person, no, the menus can be in any language. So any illiterate person can get the information from a complex system in a very easy way. Okay. But conventional way of IVR is very difficult, right? Very costly to maintain. So I thought of integrating the mobile technologies with the IVR, and we came up with a patent called as packet interactive multimedia response. Essentially, this is the thick client IVR, where the part which is repetitive in terms of playing up the prompt, getting the digits, formulating a query. All these things forms onto the handset itself, and just HTTP query goes to the server. Server gets back the values, and the client plays the response. Okay. Now this way, I was able to get away with the hardware card, server infrastructure, most of the things. So the call cost dropped from 7 rupees to maybe 7 paisa. Okay, and the additional benefit was this was much accessible system, because if I have to change the menus, I have to change the voice function of the mobile application. Okay, and then yes, this patent was there, and we deployed it in couple of carriers, no, telephone operators, and they saved a lot of money. But at the same time, when we were discussing with the managing director of one of the commodity exchange, he said that Sanjay, this can be a very good tool to reach masses. So this commodity exchange people wanted to reach last mile. Right now, they, I mean, say till some time, the trading was done by the traders, but they wanted to go to the last mile where farmers should be able to do the trading. And in the same time, no, some of the areas in India, farmer suicides were happening, right? So they still happen, but in 2007 it was on the peak. So we came up with an idea: can we use this technology to breach the last mile, so that farmers get the current information about the prices and the future information of the prices in a format they can understand? Meaning, The farmer should be able to just launch an application and the application speaks out. गेहूं के स्पॉट प्राइसेस के लिए एक दवाई है, गेहूं के फ्यूचर प्राइसेस के लिए 2 दवाई. So the farmer has to just understand pressing of keys from 0 to 9. Farmer presses 2. The system goes back to the commodity exchange, gets the data, does all the complex calculations, gets the data, plays it to the farmer and says that, hey Mr. Farmer, गेहूं का फ्यूचर प्राइस जनवरी में 600 रुपया क्विंटल है, फरवरी में 700 रुपया क्विंटल है, मार्च में 800 रुपया क्विंटल है. Okay, so the farmer, they are intelligent, they can understand the trend and they can either hold the produce or they can sell the produce. Okay, so this we deployed in Vidarbha region for soybean farmers, and farmers save a lot of money. Now this gave an idea that IT can be very well used for the betterment of the agriculture industry. So as you know, agriculture now 60% of the Indian people now, they are somehow related to agriculture. Their day-to-day income comes from the agriculture. Now at that time, then we thought of an idea how we can increase the yield of the farmer so that farmer doesn't commit suicide. Okay, so as a group, so we thought, being from an IT company, you know, IT can be a good solution. And this idea came in 2007, and the solution M-Krishi was born. So we filed a patent in 2007, and this patent went pretty far off. Now the concept here for that patent is personalized question answering system. Now today we talk about industry 4.0, business 4.0, or all, I'm say healthcare 4.0. But in 2007 we envisaged agricultural 4.0. If you see typically how 4.0 is defined, so TCS defines 4 pillars for industry 4.0. The first pillar is driving mass personalization. So I'll describe all these aspects with respect to this patent and this solution. The second is creating exponential value. The third one is leveraging ecosystem, and fourth one is embracing risk. If I take these 4 aspects, the first aspect is driving a mass personalization. Now every person, every farmer has a question which is personalized to him. It's personalized to his crop, his quality of seeds, his condition. Now, how do you give advice to farmers at a scale? We implemented sensors into his field. Then we provided a mobile application using all the research done for Indian environment, so that Indian people can use the application. So this is pre WhatsApp and Facebook days. Okay, so the farmer has to just record the question. He has to just select the things what he has done. And now you talk about the electronic medical record, no? So we created an electronic farm record, and this record was associated with the farmer. And whenever the farmer has a question, right? So farmer used to ask question, then query used to get formed, and there was a console to an expert sitting anywhere on the globe. We used to get the complete information or universe of the farmer, saying that what is the farm condition there, what is the soil condition, what is the crop he has sown, what is the temperature there. Looking at all this data, right? The expert used to give answer, and the answer used to come on the phone of the farmer, wherein he can just listen and implement. Okay. Now, if you see from a industry 4.0 or agriculture 4.0, all the 4 aspects are covered. The mass personalization, the farmer gets a personalized address. Creating exponential value, it's a pretty simple thing. He can get exponential value by just using a small mobile application. Leveraging ecosystem, we created a huge ecosystem of farmers, agricultural companies, pesticide companies, supermarkets, telecom companies, insurance companies, and serve the farmers in a much better way. Embracing risk, definitely it was a risk, because in 2007, doing something in agricultural field by a top tier company was a risk, right? Where no income was guaranteed, but we took that risk, and a lot of, I'm saying it was one of the good projects, showcase project. Okay. So now, so this was the start, and now you see almost 1,000 plus agrotech startup companies in country. So this was the seed patent, right? So filed in 2006, which acted as a stimulus to actually make India a digital farming, precision farming destination. Okay, this gave rise to another 50 patents which are around this patent. So Akhilesh spoke about the patent portfolio. So apart from agro advisory, there are around 50 patents in this area that we have filed. We have done almost 50 pilots. So I'll talk about one pilot. So, which is very close to our heart. So I'll talk about that pilot. Uh, till this time, we reach approximately 1 million farmer, almost 2 to 3 million cattle, and around 10 million transactions have happened. So this is one of the very successful patent which has been commercialized, which has created an impact. So what the patent is? The patent is a system and method for mobile-based advising. It involves user with his mobile terminal formulating a query based on his own input and external sensors, and then sending this query to a remote server, which sends it to the expert group, who devises an expert advice, which is then sent back to the user. Okay. So now this is the summary of the patent. Now you see this is one of very picture which is very close to my heart. From top left corner, the third person is from my team. His name is Dinesh Kumar Singh, and his project was awarded by Mr. Modi, Indian government. And this was a very interesting project. Now this project was related to fishing community. Now if you see fishermen in India, so typically we have very small fishermen. They have small boats. They put the diesel into the boat. They have some traditional mechanisms of identifying or predicting where the fish are. They put the diesel, go to the sea, stay in the sea for 2 or 3 days, see whether they can get the fish. If they get the fish, come back, or they come empty-handed. Okay. Now we created a partnership with an organization called as CMFRI, Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute. So this is Central Government Research Institute. They have sensors in the sea and they have satellite images. Now they have created a model which predicts where the fish are and where the fishes are moving, looking at the data. So they have worked almost 18 years on this model and they have nearly perfected this model. Now the challenge was, how do you disseminate this information to the fishermen? Okay, so we use all the design thinking approach, and we created an application which doesn't need any text. It is purely a graphics based application, and this information was delivered to the farmers, the fishermen, before going to the sea, along with a lot of other information. The other information was, what is the wave height of the sea, what is the uh, wind velocity in the sea. See, the wind velocity on the land and the sea is very different, and you can get very easily drifted into other countries and get shot. Okay, so this application provided the probable fishing zone information to the fishermen and the map how to go there. Okay, so the fishermen used this application and they went, and a lot of benefit happened. But one of the very good learning is that whatever we develop in the lab may or may not work in the field. So when we demonstrated this application and it was piloted, for initially it was okay, but later on fishermen came and said that, sir, your application is good, but it is useless because there is no coverage in the sea. Okay, so nobody puts up. But now, being part of a big group, we went to our sister company and we requested that this is one of the very good project. Could you extend the coverage in the sea? And for the first time in the India, or rather in the world, we extended mobile coverage in the sea in the 3 districts around Mumbai, and the mobile coverage was available approximately 40 kilometers inside the sea. And as a result of this application, almost 5 lakh liters of diesel was saved in 1 year as per government records. Huge impact on environmental impact, 40% more yield, less pollution, optimum income for the fishermen. Okay, so this was one of the patent, right, that created an impact. Now the second patent that I would like to talk is on cardiovascular issues. Okay, so now if you see, healthcare has taken the center stage. Because of COVID, now the focus is too much there, right? But if you see non-communicable disease, it comprises of 4 parts. One is cardiovascular disease, second is diabetes, third one is respiratory disease, and third one is malignant neoplasm, means cancer. Now, as per WHO, by 2025, 52 million people will die because of non-communicable disease. Right? So it's a huge problem, right? So because of COVID, almost 2 million people died. But this is, I would say, 25 times more issue to be solved. Now, how do we solve this issue at the scale? Okay, so considering the time shortage, I'll just do it very quickly. Now, heart attack. You hear that no, the person had a heart attack and he went, he died. It doesn't happen that way. Your body gives signal, right? If you can tap that signal, then you can predict the condition of the heart. And one of the major issue of heart attack is coronary artery disease. Now, what is coronary artery disease? Our heart supplies blood to our organs, but heart also needs energy. Okay, since the heart wall are thick, they cannot extract energy or food from the blood. So there are arteries on the heart. Now these arteries sometimes get clogged, and if the arteries get clogged, the heart doesn't get sufficient oxygen and nutrients, and then the cells dies, and then you get a heart attack. This is called as coronary artery disease. Now, for identifying coronary artery disease, you have to do a coronary angiogram, meaning you have to inject the catheter. It goes up to the heart. You have to inject the dye, and then you take a photo X-ray, and then based on that X-ray, you can identify whether it's a coronary artery disease or not. Now, considering the huge proportion of coronary artery disease, it is not feasible for everybody to do a coronary angiogram. And one of the problems is that it is asymptomatic, meaning you don't get very perceptible symptoms, right? So you just get maybe you feel tired and all those things. Now, how do you solve this problem? Now, as an engineer, if you have to solve the problem, you have to view heart in a very different way, right? Now, I see heart as a controlled electromechanical hydraulic system. So what does it mean? Your heart has three functions. Okay, the first function is pushing the blood lungs, right? Collecting the blood from the lungs, right? And maintaining the pressure. Okay. Now, if you see heart, there are four stages wherein you can digitize the operations of the heart. The first stage is the electrical activity. I won't go into the details. There's something called a sinoatrial node, atrioventricular node, and Purkinje's fiber. Basically, they generate electricity which gives a shock to the heart, and this shock actually pushes the blood into the body. The second one is that you need rhythm. So there are valves. So everybody knows valves, no? So valve controls the flow of the blood from atriums to ventricles. Right. The third thing is that the exchange of good blood and bad blood happens through the capillaries. Okay, and the fourth one is the control. Your brain, in a way, controls the flow of the heart. If you digitize all these four things, no, right, and then you look at the signals from these things, you can very easily predict whether you have a coronary artery disease or not. So that's what we have done. So this is the device which we have created, which now collects this ECG, PPG, and PCG data in a synchronous way, and we have developed a models which predicts the presence of block in the heart to an accuracy of approximately 90 to 92%. Okay, the clinical trials of this device are happening, and I think it will take about years time to roll these things in the market. So this is the patent what we have filed. Okay, so this is the second thing which I would like to discuss. Now the third thing, I think this is very relevant. I'll take 2 or 3 minutes. Now with this all WhatsApp thing and all those things happening, no, the first major problem, why do you feel that no, we don't have a sense of security on the mobile phone, is the accessibility. Now, if you see the information architecture of Android, if you want to disable certain things, is pretty complex. Okay, for IT people, it might be easy. For rest of India, 80%, 90%, it's very difficult, right? If somebody says that no, there's a Trojan in your phone, it's very difficult for your mothers or your grandmothers. No, it's very difficult. Even for us, the use of the mobile phone, everybody is not very comfortable because you don't have a sense of security and control. Okay, so why it is so? Because it's very easy to write the Trojans. Somebody can steal your camera control, push the images, hijack the HTTP, push the data somewhere. Right now, imagine you have a control. Right, we have a panel like this, and if some application, your camera is being used and you don't see anything, right? The application speaks out, "Hey, Mr. Say Shravani, your camera is being used," in Marathi language, saying that, "Do you want to disable the camera?" Won't it be very useful? You just press a button and the camera will be disabled. Or even if you go to a higher level, your data is being sent, right? So, or your address book is being sent. The mobile says, "Hey, Shravani, your address book is being picked up and sent to www.xyz.com. Do you want to send it or restrict it? Won't it be useful?" So exactly this is the problem we took, and uh, we have this grant of this patent. I won't get into the technical details, but I'd like to just give a gist of this thing, how it can be achieved. We wanted to modify the kernel level things and system some apps. In terms of this, we wrote this patent purely from an Indian perspective, where the people are less literate, less skilled, and they are not too much aware of about the technologies. Okay. So the last patent which I'd like to discuss is about the Kumbh Mela. Okay, so it's one of the interesting patent. Uh,
Hello.
Kumbh Mela, right? So you typically hear the song, no, or in Hindi movies, no, it used to say, no, कुंभ के मेले में बिछड़े हुए भाई और कुंभ के मेले में माँ बाप बिछड़ जाते थे, no. So barring these two Kumbh Melas, no, previous to Kumbh Mela, so this is the 2015 story, Kumbh Mela in Nasik. So many people from Nasik came and they said that let us use digital technologies to make this Kumbh Mela safe. Okay, almost 800 people, startups, corporates, and educational institutes came and they created a system called as Kumbhathon, and almost 18 applications were rolled, and this Kumbh Mela was event free. So we had our own application which was deployed here. So this application was called as Digitalk. This is Gappa Goshti Talk. So this application is somewhat similar to, I would say, WhatsApp, but it was filed much earlier. Which no, so the concept was actually if you integrate WhatsApp with the machine learning, right? So you can establish the trends. You can take multiple decisions. So this is the core theme behind this application. So this application we deployed and we gave it to around 150 volunteers. So they used to actually go to the Kumbh Mela site locations. They used to take photographs. They used to push the information on the server. The machine learning techniques used to extract the information, right? And the report in consolidated form used to get presented to the experts or Kumbh managing people. And the result was actually this Kumbh Mela. There was no stampede, nobody died, and some people got lost, but they were reunited. So this was the impact on millions of the people. Okay, so this was one of the patent that was used, leveraged there, and this is one of the very close thing to my heart. So this initiative continued in form of Digital Impact Square. So we have a good innovation center in Nasik. So where around 80 people are there and they are inventing problems to solve the society's problem. Okay. Now, from this journey, there are 4 takeaways for the startups. The first thing is that identify unique proposition very clearly and concisely. Okay. So you should be very clear about what you are solving. Right. IPR has to be taken very seriously, because if you don't do IPR, then somebody else will file IPR, and then you might have to pay royalty to him. Implementation focus at an early stage on value proposition. See, most of the startups, okay, so they get kicked by solving the technical problem. Okay, so but that is not the case, right? So if you have to sustain, you have to have a good business plan. You need to have a good value proposition, and then institutionalization of IPR in a complete organization, right? So your organization has to be oriented to the IPR patenting. Okay, so Akhilesh has summarized it pretty well. So if you do a patent, it gives a broader view of things, what is happening worldwide, because you might feel that my work is unique, but at the same time, there are so many people who are working on this field in a similar way. I can say from my personal experience after filing so many patents, no, you feel that your idea is unique, but on searching you find out no, there are so many people working on that. The portfolio analysis gives a good gaps and new ideas. It enables scalable mechanism for commercialization, and most important, gives a legal protection for your idea. So I think I'll take a pause here. We are almost so any questions? Yeah, any questions? Yeah, Akhilesh, am I audible?
Yes, Sanjay, you are audible.
Okay. So I didn't see any reaction from the participants. So I
That
thought no.
that was wonderful. A very good case study you presented, Sanjay.
Yeah.
And are there? I'm just checking if there are any questions for you. I have some pending questions. Can I respond to them?
Yeah, Akhilesh, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. So, the question which from Mr. Nixon Patel, one I have already answered in the answer box, and the person has seen it. So that's, I think I was thinking over like what are the challenges, IP challenges in India. So I thought let me give a proper answer after thinking through. So as the first thing I see, the gap analysis for where you should create the IP, where you should patent, is going to be a challenge because, as I already said, the standards bodies and their IP declarations are not very much transparent. So it's not very clearly known which standard bodies, what is in their basket in Indian scenario. And this, as I told you, it needs to be tightened right from the regulatory aspect till the simple IP policy of the IP policy says that you should declare whenever you have a relevant concerning work, but the enforcement of the IP policy is an issue, and that makes it difficult for the investors to make a decision. Then second is about the regulatory frame. Some of the technologies, like if you look at the drones or the driverless cars or any such new niche technologies, you'll find there is a challenge because there is a first cut of the regulatory provisions available, which may not be adequate to address all the requirements in the field, and the standards do not exist in many of the cases. So that means you would have difficulty in finding which IP to create again, because it's like a calculated risk to be taken. Third thing, I feel the IP portfolios of the IP created by uh, uh, many of the startups and others may be very small sometimes. That's my observation. And if your portfolio does not gather the critical mass, then you'll have to really strategize that what is really the value you bring to the table and how you position it, and how you partner with the people. So that would be, again, because of the critical mass not being available, you may face more challenge which IP to create. And that reflects on your entire research and innovation journey itself. And the fourth one about the accelerated patent grant, which now Government of India started giving for the startups. I feel it should be available for everyone. But of course, that eats on the bandwidth available for the patent office. That's been doing great. Now, at least earlier, there was big pendency. Still, there is a pendency which is not acceptable according to the go-to-market needs. So that's another challenge. And fifth, which is again about the trade secret, is where it's culturally you find the people do not really obey the confidentiality provisions. So you find it very difficult because information export law is not as stringent as in some other countries, especially say US and all, where you cannot cross the borders for the information so easily. But here it's not so. There is not very stringent provision that somebody does a work and doesn't port it to other crosses the border. So that is a provision from an information security, particularly from an export of the information point of view. When you want to protect something for the good cause, for the sake of the country, you feel this should not go out unless it is cleared. So there is a provision. It happens. I know there is a provision, and there is a everything is said to have happened in a black box, but I suppose it happens. That's what I mean. So thank you very much. Those were the 5 challenges which I feel one would definitely face in the Indian ecosystem if you want to create the IP and do the IP-led offerings. Apart from Mr. Nixon, I have not said something about the quantum computing, and those would have different challenges because that's your field. As you would see, whether from a hardware point of view, there will be one type of challenge. From a software point of view, actually, there should not be a challenge. There should be an opportunity. So that's my view. And can you please provide some tips on commercialization of IP? So as I have already said, that was the key aspect today, that from a commercialization point of view, despite of the challenges, that's why I do not like talking the challenges, because it's better to see the solutions and opportunities. And there is a great opportunity in Indian ecosystem that you can catch hold of even the established players and see they cannot get an entry into India unless you do something for them. So become an application developer partner and hold your IP strictly with you so that you have something to trade over the table when it comes to the IP portfolio. So all those opportunities are open. So even if you're not an early mover, there's a great opportunity in today's industrial, in various technology domains. So like India is still, the spectrum is for 4G. So you have a lot of opportunity even to do in 5G in the application space and some other interesting areas of technology. So if you strategize well, you need to definitely think very carefully which solution or product you want to create, and then define your strategy very correct to create the IP around something which you can really kind of cross license or trade with others. So it needs a very clear strategy. It needs a very clear focus on what you create. Definitely, you should not randomly create because you are passionate about something or you like something that you say, I'll be just wanting to do this. Because what you do finally might have been already done by somebody. Or what you do might have been already in some other form part of the other standards body lobby would accept, then they will not accept yours easily unless you get a lot of muscle power and the really all the support to fight it out. So that's why it's instead of getting into that journey, it's better to get where there's a clear road available to you. And that will give you much faster returns. So there's a great opportunity if one thinks through carefully about all that. Thank you. Okay, if we have to apply for a patent in each country, will it not create an undue overhead? Yes, of course it creates, but it depends upon what is the technology we are talking. If it gives the proportionate returns, we do it. Otherwise, we limit it to the number of countries where you are really focused for your business. But that's how it works. Also, somebody from the region where patent can, they can copy this. Okay, where it's not enforceable. Yes, people are free to copy, and you cannot stop them. It's like if there is a country where you have not got your patent granted, not filed. So in that country, your patent can be freely used by others. You can also use in that country. Others can also use. But in a country where your patent is granted, you have the exclusive rights as long as the patent is live and its legal status is clear. Then you have full right, but others do not have the right without your permission. if there is a significant difference between research publication and process a novel solution and IPR, what are they? Significant differences between so research publication is something like a piece of work which you do, and with respect to all the key references and your comments, findings, all that. So the structure of the research publication is very different. It is like writing your findings, whereas when you say the novel solution and IPR, differences, if there are significant differences between a research publication that proposes a novel solution and IPR, what are they? I'm not clear about the question. The research publication that proposes a novel solution means you expect a solution emerging out of your research publication. That means it may have some inventive aspect there. So you got to assess and evaluate if your research paper has some inventive idea which has led to the incremental growth of technology, means which enables the technology to do something which the technology in the past could not do, then this is patentable. Then you may think of patenting it. Sorry, Sanjay, you want to say something?
Yeah, the first thing is that okay, if you publish a research paper, then it becomes a prior art. It is not patentable; it's a public knowledge.
Okay,
Right?
okay, right.
So I think the core aspect is that if you want to patent something, hold it on to yourself. Don't publish it. First,
Yeah,
file a patent, and then go for a research publication. But
yeah,
typically in the research community, no, people have tendency to publish a research paper first, and so that could lead to some problem.
yes, true. So if, as Sanjay rightly said, if you want to patent something, then don't publish first. You can do first patenting, then publish. So there is a question, and people who file patents but never release products. From Dr. Sriram, that is true. It's like you have filed a patent, now you are holding on to it, sitting over it. And so then there are two things. One is, of course, you are at a loss because you have some valuable patent and you are not leveraging it. But the disadvantage for the society is that you are not licensing it to others also, because you don't have a licensing mechanism in place or have not taken it up seriously that you should license it out and get some money for you also. So there is so in that case, if it is a very important patent like in the healthcare or some such thing which might really critical for the society, then even government can intervene and get this on friend terms forcibly from you, or even government can even revoke it and take your patent back with the government. So all those provisions are there if it is something like unusually wrong, but normally if it is not hurting the society in a very fundamental way, then nobody takes cognizance of all that. How to overcome? So are there any more questions apart from ensuring novelty of the idea? Are there any other challenges, requirements that one should focus on while filing a patent? Of course, see, novelty is just first minimum requirement, that whatever you're filing as a patent application is, see, this is not the difference in research paper and patent application. Patent application means you're claiming something that this work can do A, B, C. And then you substantiate how A will be done, how B will be done, how C will be done. So you tell all the technology specifications and engineering aspects of it, that how will it be done, so that anyone else should be able to practice that. So it has the novelty, it should have the incremental growth of technology. That is very important. Delta increment over whatever technology could do in the past. At least one function you should prove that. So then only it is patentable. And that should find some industrial application. Is patent troll a very serious problem? Okay, so these are the names, so don't worry. See, patent troll may be taken to the advantage also, can be a problem also. That's a marketplace. So when you go to the marketplace, a lot of things can happen if you're not careful. But it's not a major problem. People are not going to do something which cannot be prevented. If you are having the right processes in your organization, you don't have so much impact of all that. But definitely it needs a lot of policy and processes in place to ensure, because it is like if you have a polling process to keep polling what's going on in the area which you are interested, where you are creating the IP and where your IP is going, how it is being used or misused. So then, of course, there is no problem. So I don't see any new question. Sanjay, you have something to say before we?
I think I also don't have any question. So Shravani, over to you.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you, Akhilesh. I hope you guys liked the sessions and all the queries were answered. So we'll now end the session. Thank you so much, Dev.
Thank you very much.